sent, and supported from Libya, supported from Kuwait, supported from UAE, supported from Saudi Arabia. All these finances came from all those places. And we brought this money to the Muslim Student Association, Muslim Student Union, and many other infrastructures, including the youth of Islamic Youth of USA, for culture jihad in the United States of America.
Okay, thank you. Waleed, did you have anything to comment about this?
Yes, I do. The cultural jihad, we have to understand the cultural jihad is the phase of jihad that when Islamic nations are weaker. We have to understand what is mentioned in the Quran in Surah Muhammad. فَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَدْعُوا إِلَى السِّلْمِ وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ, which means do not call for peace when you have the upper hand. In other words, the Muslim world now does not have the upper hand. They're not the strong party in this case. So they have to have what they call a hudna, or a ceasefire treaty. And it's only up to 10 years in Islam. And during this period, the Islamization process begins. A very good example is given to us when Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi, Saladin, was asked the question when Richard the Lionheart wanted to have a peace treaty with the Muslims. And his Arab advisor came to the scene, and Salah ad-Din asked him the question, what should I do? And his advisor said, well, the Quran says, if they concede to peace, then concede to it. In other words, let's have peace with Richard the Lionheart. And Salah ad-Din gave him a remarkable answer. And he said, you are an Arab and I am a Kurd. Salah ad-Din was from Kurdistan. He said, you shall know the Quran better than I. Doesn't the Quran also say, فَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَدْعُوا إِلَى السِّلْمِ وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ? Why do you call for peace when you have the upper hand, when you are stronger? So we know that from Islam there is two spheres, and I think Brother Osama alluded very eloquently to the subject of the Islamization of the world through jihad. He does not deny it, he accepts it. Now, if he wants to talk about the Old Testament, I'll be glad to talk about the Old Testament, but let's have an agreement. Let's switch the Quran. The Old Testament becomes the New Testament, and the New Testament of the Quran becomes the Old Testament. In this case, the Makkiyan Surah overrides the Madaniyan Surah, which the Makkiyan Surah has the verses of peace. And if he wants to switch the Quran upside down in this fashion to make the Quran a peaceful book, I'm all for it. We can moderate Islam.
See, Waleed, Osama gave the example that he's doing jihad right now because he's part of this debate, right? Or he maintains his website because he's doing jihad by maintaining his website because he's promoting Islam. I mean, what's the problem with something like that? Let's say, is that their goal, just to promote Islam throughout the West or throughout the world? Or can you give us a more risky example, not the violent jihad, but the cultural or stealth jihad that might be at risk to the West? Not just a website here and there.
We have to understand, I'm sure Osama does not disagree on this one. Al-Islamu dinun wa dawla. Islam is a religion and a state. If it's a religion and a state, you do not, separate religion from state. The question becomes what is the state? The state is the Sharia, and without Sharia Islam, which is the legal system of Islam, you have no state. Faisal Abdul Rauf himself, the Imam of Ground Zero, talked about the state. He talked about that we can establish an Islamic state globally. In fact, he supported Hamas, Hezbollah, and Islamic Jihadist movement. He disagreed on the violent act, but he agreed that they all began the idea of the Islamization of the West. In fact, Faisal Abdul Rauf himself stated, he said, people ask me right after 9/11 attack as to why do movements with political agendas carry Islamic religious names? Why call them Muslim Brotherhood? Why call them the Islamic Resistance Movement? Why call them Hezbollah, Party of Allah? And his answer is, the trend towards Islamic law and justice begins in religious movements like these, because secularism had failed to deliver what the Muslim wants, which is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then he continued, the only law that the Muslim needs exists already in the Quran and the Hadith. And I'm sure that Brother Osama will agree with Faisal Abdul Rauf from that perspective.
Osama, is Islam a religion and a state?
Yes, Summer, but again, please, I need a little more time to answer the brothers. I mean, I still have to answer the question, did Islam spread by the sword? Which I haven't gotten to that, because the brothers get double the time that I get. Anyway,
I'm actually giving each person 2 minutes, but yeah, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Islam has a Sharia law. Sharia means God's law. So yes, the law of God, just like the Mosaic law. Sharia means the God of law. And yes, Islam is a constitution and is a government and is a religion and is everything to us. Everything we do in life has to be revolving around Islam, has to come from Islam, has to be approved by Islam. Okay, but if you look at all the prophets, the New Testament, okay, forget about the Old Testament where I just quoted you 2 examples out of many where even innocent children, women, and unarmed people were put to death, okay? Suckling babies were put to death. And the Old Testament even has pregnant women rip their tummies open, take the fetuses and throw them out in the ground. And dash the babies' heads against the rock. These are all in the Old Testament. But even the New Testament, Jesus, he commanded his followers to buy swords and later commanded them to sell them. But when Jesus returns, what is he going to do? He's going to put everybody, the whole world is going to be put to the sword. The whole world.
But Osama,
okay?
why are you switching? Why are you switching it up? He was talking about Islam. Now you're trying to pull out verses here and there from the Bible or from Christianity.
No, what I'm proving, Summer, and I'm not trying to play red herrings or run away. No, I'm making the point very clear that all of God Almighty's commands, not just from Islam, even before Islam, commanded that God Almighty's truth be spread. Otherwise, doom will come. The people of Lot, okay, they were doomed. Sodom and Gomorrah, okay. The people of Noah, they were destroyed by the flood, okay. The Old Testament stories of killings. Jesus himself will put the world to the sword, and so is Prophet Muhammad. He also put the world to the sword. And but the thing about Islam, the unique thing about Islam, and I swear to God, I'm not being biased here. The unique thing about Islam is that Islam is clear about not killing any innocent people in person or unarmed person. In fact, Noble Verse chapter 5 verse 32, God said, if anyone slew a person, unless it be for murder or for spreading mischief in the land, it would be as if he slew the whole people. And if anyone saves a life, it would be as if he saves the lives of all people. That's in the Quran.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Okay, so you basically answered my question earlier. I asked you if Islam is a religion and a state, and you said yes, it is. And then you also said it's our constitution, it's our government, it's our religion. Everything has to be approved by Islam. True?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me ask you this. If America is forced, or if, let me put it this way, if Islamization comes to America, comes to the West in the next 10 years, are we going to be forced, is the average John Smith walking down the street that's not a Muslim going to be forced to adhere to the constitution that Islam accepts or that Islam forces on current Muslims?
Absolutely not, and here's why. Okay? Because God Almighty says in the Quran, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. Their affairs, their decisions, everything that has to deal with them has to be done through democracy and consultation. Okay, no one can be a dictator. Now, America is not all Muslims. Suppose, I mean, even if a Muslim president becomes an American president, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, he can't change the constitution because the people are not Muslims. Okay, if the majority become Muslims, then maybe we can modify the constitution to fit the Islamic Sharia.
And that's where I want to cut you off. When you say if the minority becomes a majority, and if you can alter the constitution to fit what the Sharia teaches, where does that put the rest of America? Are they forced to accept Islam, pay the tax, or be killed?
Well, isn't the Bible's Ten Commandments part of the one of the pillars of the constitutions of America?
Osama, I asked you a straightforward question. If the minority becomes a majority in the West and Sharia becomes a law, what will happen? Will people be forced to convert to Islam or be killed or pay a tax? Or is there a fourth option?
First of all, nobody gets killed if he doesn't convert to Islam. Allah Almighty said absolutely clearly in Islam, there is no compulsion in religion. Everyone is free to, and the rest of the verse says everyone is free to choose whatever religion he wants to choose. I mean, God Almighty said in the Holy Quran, "La ikraha fi ad-din, qad tabayyana ar-rushd min al-ghayy." Truth has been made clear to the people. There's no compulsion in religion. And God Almighty said also another verse, فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Whoever chooses to believe in Islam, let him believe, and whoever chooses to disbelieve in Islam or remain an infidel or disbeliever, let him be. That's why there is jizya, taxes. For the Muslim, it's called zakah, which is money I pay to the government, and the government pays it back to the poor and the infrastructure and everything. The dhimmis, the people of dhimma, okay, who pay jizya. Dhimma in Arabic means integrity, okay? If you give me money to store for you for a year, and you go out, you travel, and you come back, that money is sitting on my dhimma. I have the full responsibility to protect it and give it back to you. Otherwise, I have no integrity. So the people who are on our dhimma, upon our dhimma, the dhimmis, are those who are under our integrity and under our protection. Those are the dhimmis. They pay what is called jizya, which is similar to the zakah. Again, go
you
to
have
the
10
government,
seconds because we
and
got
in
to take a
return, the
break.
government provides them protection from Muslims and non-Muslims, allows them to build churches and temples. Okay, that's why you have Christians in the Muslim world, and that's why you have pagans in the Muslim world.
We have to take a break. Osama, I'm sorry to cut you off. Our producers are letting us know that we have to take a break. When we come back, I will turn it over to Kamal. You're watching Jihad Exposed live on ABN. Our numbers are 248-416-1300. Make sure you call us. We have 30 minutes left on the show. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
If you are a user on Facebook, ABN would be happy to add you as a friend. Simply search ABN Sat and add us as a friend. After doing so, send and we will approve your request. ABN loves to add new members, so find us and we hope to see you soon.
Jihad has come to America.
It constitutes the most devastating series of terrorist attacks in history.
The only deen Allah accepts is Al-Islam. And whoever seeks any other deen apart from Islam will never be accepted.
And we stand together to win the war against terrorism.
But you too will make your destruction.
Welcome back. We're live in ABN Studios. You're watching Jihad Exposed, our website. If you have friends who don't have the satellite and want to watch this program or other shows on ABN, you can refer them to our website, which is www.abnsat.com. They could be watching this show right now, calling in. We have about 30 minutes left on the program, and then we will let you go for the night. Tonight's topic is what is jihad? What is it? Do you know what it is? Call us at 248-416-1300. We will start to take your calls in a few minutes here. But first, I want to ask you, Brother Kamal, a question. Osama is saying that no one gets killed if they don't convert to Islam. Let's assume that all terrorist activities of the past are vetoed. Let's pretend that they never existed, they never happened, and we're starting a fresh page. Is that true, that if somebody does not convert to Islam, if this country becomes an Islamic country run by Sharia law, that they won't get killed? Is that true?
It's absolutely not. According to Sharia law, if they will not convert, let me read to you from hadith from Shafi'i. Al-Shafi'i, he is one of the most accurate in Islam. In his book, The Ordinance of the Quran, he said, part 2, page